YouTube. Welcome back to another video. We're gonna hop straight into it. Today we got a banger. Today we're gonna be reacting to the 6'10 NBA player that can rebound. And it's about Jaren Jackson. I love Jaren Jackson as a player, but there's some questions about like his rebound. So let's just go ahead and hop straight into it. If you enjoy the video, drop a like, subscribe, and leave a comment at the end for what is your favorite Jaren Jackson moment and how do you think the Grizzlies are going to do this season. But let's hop straight into it, man.
Since he's entered the league, Jaren Jackson Jr. has been very productive for the Memphis Grizzlies. He's averaged about 19 points in his career and has become one of the best defenders in the league.
Yeah, he's a wonderful help side defender.
That's been a bit dumbfounding. Through his 7 years in the NBA, Jackson Jr. has only averaged 5.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Game, which is really low for someone that's 6'10 and very athletic. So how do we make sense of this? And how does his rebounding struggles inform us about the rest of his game? For most of Jackson's career, he has played alongside another big man, while he's 6'10 and can shoot three.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I would say like that plays a big part in it too, because like now he has Zach Edey, and then Santiago Dam was a great rebounder. And I mean like he's always been around like other rebounds, Steven Adams at a point in time. So yeah, like he's always been around other people that really rebound and where he could just rely on he could play help defense. And then like on the offensive side, he does a lot for the team. So I can kind of see why his rebounding numbers aren't crazy.
The Grizzlies have been reluctant to play
him
as the center. The reason is Jackson is best described as a 6'10 guard. While he's not the primary ball handler, his game is much better fit for the perimeter. To give ball handlers more space to drive, Jackson tends to stand out on the perimeter and wait for kickouts for open shots.
He definitely is a sniper
naturally,
though.
By being away from the paint, his chances for offensive rebounds are relatively slim. On the defensive end, he is by far the Grizzlies' best rim protector. His length and athleticism allow him to cover a lot of ground, and with the center behind him, his instinct is to go contest shots. Similar to Hassan Whiteside, Jackson Jr. tends to jump on shots near his vicinity, which then forces other guys to help rebound.
Speaking of Hassan Whiteside, we got a video coming out this week that's about Hassan Whiteside. I'm excited to watch that one too, but it kind of talks about the same thing with Jaren Jackson, but I'm going to say that for later though.
Behind him. Even if it's a bad shooter, he'll still get a contest, even if it's probably not necessary. For those reasons, he's already lowering his chances of grabbing more rebounds. But there's a few other concerns that actually not only affect his rebounding, but other parts of his game. Let's start with the physicality. For someone this big, Jackson typically gets pushed around by other guys, even guards or undersized forwards. While he is much taller, the biggest issue is that he doesn't use his base to fight off his matchup. Instead, he's trying to use his upper body to gain leverage. For example, Jackson has a huge mismatch with Austin Reeves, but because he's using his arms to grab him, Reeves can then maneuver around him.
Now, I would say throughout history, most of the time, if you're a stretch big, that's usually like a hole in your game where it's like you're really not that physical. But for somebody as like big as Jaren Jackson, his physicality can and is in question, as you can see right here, as they're showing. He has to front Austin Reeves right here and get this ball. Like you cannot let Austin Reeves do this to you. But like I said, throughout history, most of the time if you're a stretch big, you're not really that physical unless like you were somebody that was physical. Game revolved about around being physical. Then you transition to a shooter. But yeah.
And as Jackson tries to get back in front, Reeves continues to get low to maintain position. And as the pass is thrown,
you can't let that happen.
Get it and gets called for an offensive
foul.
Good
defense, but
this makes it hard for him to create offensive rebounding chances. He has a great matchup with Jordan Goodwin and even has position on him. But as Aldama drives, Jackson's upright and holding Goodwin with his arms up high, so Goodwin can swim around him to get in front, and now all that leverage is lost.
So let's take a look at that, because low key, this isn't a bad take by Santiago Dam, but if Jaren Jackson doesn't allow Goodwin to get behind him, can be considered an easier layup, as there's less cloggage in the paint from another defender and just the presence in general. And like it goes back to the rebound, and it's like he just can't let that happen. He can't let that happen.
With his arms up high, so Goodwin can swim around him to get in front, And now
because
all
like
that
if
leverage
Jaren
is
gets behind
lost.
him,
By being that
Santi
upright,
could drop
you're
that off to
giving
him
a
as well
smaller
for a
defender a
layup.
chance to essentially move you as much as they want. So even though it's technically a mismatch, an offensive rebound isn't a concern when you could just move him out of the
Oh,
way.
that's
On
crazy.
this one, Jokic is in the post and Jackson comes to help. So on the kickout pass, Jackson's upright and Jokic can then use his elbows to essentially box out two guys at once, which allows Aaron Gordon to then get the putback.
But
Besides
that's
the
just Jokic being
physicality,
Jokic.
the next concerning aspect is his awareness. His eyes aren't in the right place at times, which allows his matchup to sneak behind him for better positioning. Part of the reason is that once the ball is up, he's not ready for the rebound, and you'll notice that he tends to let.
And it's things like that where you only notice it if you slow down the footage. You would never, be able to tell, like, if you're watching the game live, like, oh, okay, Jaren didn't see that coming, unless like you really slow it down.
Up and rely on his teammates to get the board instead. On this one, he's on Alex Caruso and sees the dribble handoff coming, but as J-Dub goes up,
Slide
notice
right
how he
behind
moves
him.
towards Hardenstein. Now this makes some sense because Edie's occupied with J-Dub, so his instinct is to go box out Hardenstein. But since Edie
But
doesn't
then you
jump,
forget about your man.
Jackson needs to find a spot to
Yep.
try and rebound, and not surprisingly, it's his matchup Caruso that ends up getting that board. Just a few plays before, Jackson creates a switch with Isaiah Joe. As he gets in the
Gotta
post,
take advantage of that
Kennard gets up
mismatch.
a three, and Jackson let up instead of trying to swim around his matchup and misses out on this rebound opportunity. So, as you might have guessed, Jackson's lack of motor and inability to position himself makes it really hard to grab rebounds in traffic. Essentially, the only rebounds he really gets is when they come directly to him. If opponents are really crashing for rebounds, there's a good chance that Jackson isn't gonna get it. And this really made an impact in Memphis's overall rebounding. While Memphis was second in the league in total rebounds, they were the second worst in rebound rate at 54% and second worst in contested rebounding rate at 29%. They grabbed a lot of rebounds because there were so many opportunities, many of which came.
Now, I would say, like, when it comes to rebounding, it's really all about like your motor for one again. Now, I'm not saying anything about Jaren Jackson's motor, but it's all about who wants it more and just being able to know when and where and how to place yourself. Now, I'm a professional basketball player, obviously, so I can't tell him nothing. But as we can see, I'm like, there are times where like he's just, I would say he's probably gassed, or sometimes where he's just like, all right, I'm gonna let you have it, when like he should be more physical, as basically what they're saying.
From not grabbing the first defensive board. This really showed up in the game plan, especially in the postseason. Even though Jackson and Edie are big in theory, teams push their players to crash the boards because they consistently fail to position themselves to grab rebounds, especially in their most recent first round series against the Thunder.
Oh, you can't let that
They
happen.
lost the offensive rebound battle in every game, even though the Thunder are a much smaller team. And I believe these poor traits in rebounding come back to bite Jackson and the Grizzlies in other areas. The main issue is on the post-ups. Just like with the boards, Jackson often gets pushed out when he's trying to post a smaller player. So once he starts dribbling, that gives time for the double to come, and he forces up an off balance.
Okay, so I would say, to his credit, that's Alex Caruso. I mean, he's one of the best, like, from guard big defenders there is. So I'm gonna come a little bit slack on that one, but there has been a question like throughout his career about Jaren Jackson's like post game credit. I believe like the past 2 seasons, his post touches have been like they haven't been that bad. They've actually been really good actually. But I just want to give him a slight, because it's Alex Caruso. He's known to stop bigs. We've seen it with Jokic and everybody. So I'm gonna come a little bit slack on that one.
Shot. But maybe the most concerning part is that he tends to go sideways on these post-ups. On this one,
He loves that
he's
hook.
driving at Luka, but he's going sideways into the paint, so the Lakers
Yeah.
don't feel the need to help. Here's another one. Jackson's in the corner, and he doesn't get any leverage on Bam because he's moving laterally, and Bam's able to block his shot. As you might have seen, Jackson typically loses the physicality battle, And that really neutralizes some of the value that he brings in other areas, like his shooting and ball handling. That's because most teams are more than okay with putting smaller players on him without compromising their defense. And that's why Memphis can't really play him at center for long stretches, even though he has all the skills to be a stretch 5. While he is very athletic, the concern is that he's going to be taken out of the play by any form of physicality. Because of his unique deficiencies, Jackson Jr. needs a center behind him, and that affects Memphis' spacing because the paint isn't as wide open with the center standing around the rim. Now, I think the Grizzlies would feel more comfortable putting him at the 5 if he could consistently handle double teams, just like how he doesn't look.
Now, I would say, putting Jaren Jackson as a 5 on paper, it sounds really good because, like you said, he has potential to be like the perfect stretch 5. He's one of the best shooting bigs in the league. But considering, I mean, there have been times where, like, I'm pretty sure the game plan is where they're gonna go small ball and put Jaren at the 5 and allow him to stretch the floor, allow John Morant and everybody else to get into the paint. But I believe, like, I'm just saying, like, this season, I think Jaren Jackson is really going to have to, like, really work on, like, his positioning and rebound and physicality, considering that Desmond Bane is going. So the lack of shooting is there. So, like, they're going to need, like, that paint to be open for John Morant to get more shots at the rim and have Jaren Jackson be able to shoot more. So, hey, man, it's just stuff he has to work on.
Locate the right people to box out. He also doesn't pay attention to the help defenders that are doubling. For example, Jackson's in the post against Caruso again, Vince Williams cuts down, and Chet tries to help, so at this point, Jackson has to do something to move the defense. But he instead tries to spin off Caruso, in which he runs into Chet and then loses the ball. In that series against OKC, they would take away the middle and let him spin baseline where a center was there to help. And throughout game 4,
you gotta be able to
he
read
never
that.
really made any adjustments. With 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, he posts J-Dub, and he's again inviting him to use the baseline. Jackson spins once again, and
Chet's
Chet
right
is there to
Yep.
block the shot. The reason Jackson even posts guys up is because he has really incredible touch that helps make up for the lack of physicality. Even when he's moving sideways at times, his ability to float it in from 10 to 15
He
feet
loves that floater,
justifies
man.
it enough for him to be in the post. And this is why Jackson's a really unique player for his size in a good and bad way. At the end of the day, Jackson Jr. is a player that prioritizes finesse over physicality. He's rarely ever going to overpower you, but his touch near the rim and three-point shot makes him an offensive weapon. At the same time, though, his lack of physicality, especially against smaller players, makes him an afterthought on the glass and allows teams to continue to play smaller lineups. With all that said, though, Memphis clearly believes in his skill set because they just extended him for another 5 years. And while some people don't believe he's worth that money, he's a very unique player that offers a lot for a team that really needs him. But if there's things that he can really improve, it's
Now, like, nobody's perfect. Everybody has holes in the game, and Jaren Jackson has been one of the most consistent players, like, on the Grizzlies. So honestly, like this is, I'm not saying this stuff that you could, like, just wash over, but he has Zach Edey behind him now. I mean, like, what more do you want? I'm like, his shots are definitely going to go up this season. Now that Desmond Bane is definitely going to go up. But like I said, it's just stuff that, like, he has to work on, and,
really
and
to
obviously
become
I'm
a
pretty sure
more
he knows
physical
that.
presence down low, and to improve his awareness, whether it's locating the right guys to box out, or figuring out how the defense is guarding him and making them pay with the right reads. It is year 8, so this might just be who he is, but even small improvements would go a long way towards making him a better rebounder, which sounds crazy to say for someone that's 6'10 with athleticism. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If so, please feel free to like and subscribe. Appreciate the support.
Yeah, man, that was a good video. I mean, like I said, it's just stuff that, like, he has to work on, and, like, isn't his whole job isn't just the rebounding. He's one of the best scorers on the team, one of the best shooters on the team. So he already has a lot on his plate. But it's just like in certain moments you have to be able to read the floor, positioning, and get rebounds. It'll really help your team. And like I said, if they could run a lot of minutes with Jaren Jackson at the 5 this season, I think the Grizzlies, like the gameplay for the Grizzlies, could definitely work out well. But that was a dope video. I love learning stuff like this. Shout out Jaren Jackson. Shout out the Grizzlies. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, drop a subscribe, leave a comment. Like I said, let me know your favorite Grizzlies moment. But I'm gonna catch you next video. We out of here. Peace.